Well, there you have it. The Browns have found their defensive tackle as they are expected to sign Dalvin Tomlinson. We're going to break down this free agency acquisition from my kitchen as I'm out of the office by now, but I still wanted to get a video out to everyone watching about the latest free agency news. So Ian Rappaport tweeting out the Browns are expected to sign former defensive tackle, Vikings defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson, landing their coveted big-time defenders on day one of free agency. He gets a 4-year deal worth $57 million. That comes out to a little less than $15 million a season. So Andrew Berry does not necessarily swing for the big fences or go for the home run Draymond Jones. He dials it back a little bit. No Javon Hargrave, $20-ish million a season signing. No, it's Dalvin Tomlinson, which I'm actually okay with. I think a lot of us probably built the free agency window, myself included, bigger than it was going to be for the Browns. I know they were in the mix for Hargrave. They were in the mix for Draymond Jones, so I don't think Tomlinson was super high on their list, but I do think it's a pretty good consolation prize. So we're going to break down this move for you guys right now. Again, I'm not in the studio, so I don't have all the bells and whistles and the stats I can show on screen. So I'm just going to verbalize a lot of stuff and take some screenshots and put it over me. But Dalvin Tomlinson has been one thing throughout his NFL career. Pretty reliable. Originally with the New York Giants, didn't miss any time there, essentially just one game in his entire, nope, didn't miss a single game with the Giants actually. It wasn't until he came to the Vikings where he missed one game his first year and 4 games this past season. He's never been a big-time pass rusher, and that's perfectly fine. The Browns didn't need to add more pass rushers, in my opinion. They needed to go out and get some run stoppers, and that's what Dalvin Tomlinson does best. Last year for the Vikings, 2.5 sacks, 42 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 10 QB hits. He is excellent at clogging up gaps in the offensive line so that the linebackers can get free and make plays in the backfield. He's not someone that's necessarily going to fill out the stat sheet, but he's going to make a lot of important plays so that other guys on the defense can be better at their jobs. We know PFF is one of the best ways to measure offensive and defensive linemen, so I'm going to show you guys the PFF rankings and stats in just a second. But let me know, has free agency so far for the Browns been a bit underwhelming? With this Dalvin Tomlinson signing in the books now, do you feel that it's been a bit underwhelming? Yes or no? Before Tomlinson signing, yeah, I'll say it was underwhelming. I know everyone was saying, relax, don't worry, it's early. And it is early. It hasn't even been 24 hours. There's still a lot of good players out there. But for a while there, it did feel like the Browns were getting second place for a lot of these free agents, and second place says nothing in free agency. So now, let's look at some PFF grades and rankings and whatnot. His 2022 overall grade, 77.1. That's green. That's good. His run defense, and this is where it gets interesting. If you're just going off PFF, he's actually gotten worse every single season at being a run stopper. That's a bit concerning because that's what he's being brought to Cleveland to do. Not to get after the quarterback, but to stop the run game for opposing teams, which was this team's biggest issue in 2022, in my opinion. Last year, PFF graded him out 63.8. That's yellow in their scale. That's like middle of the pack-ish. And we could take it one step further, actually. Dalvin Tomlinson, his rookie year for the Giants, run defense, 82.7. It's gone downhill quite literally every single season since then. Now, that's just PFF's opinion. There are more ways to measure defensive tackles and players. Their word is not the only word, but it's a really good tool in my opinion. So PFF views him as a declining run-stopping player. So I'm sure it took Andrew Berry a lot to give out. What was the exact year? 4 years, $57 million, $27.5 million guaranteed. Knowing that beforehand, Taven Bryan was as much money he wanted to give out. He didn't spend much for either Malik Jackson or Malik McDowell. He did not want to continue paying prior defensive linemen on this roster when he took over. So this is a big step for him. This is Andrew Berry, realizing my plan of skipping out on defensive tackles Did not work out last year. I have to correct it. And he does with a big-time signing here. 4 years, $57 million. Now, this is going to be our 4th video of the day, depending on what time zone you're in. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Usually, I'm in the Chat Sports Studios. We've got all sorts of great graphics for you guys to consume the video. But if you're not subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you went ahead and did so. Free Browns content for you. And also, I get to grow the channel and get more studio space to give you that precious Browns content. So going back to PFF, because I do think it's a good way to, take a look at some defense and offensive linemen and whatnot. Dalvin Tomlinson was actually ranked the 14th best defensive tackle in PFF's eyes. That's 14th, by the way, out of 127. For reference, he's 14th. Any guesses on what Jordan Elliott was out of 127? 118th. So this is leaps and bounds ahead of at least what PFF thinks the Browns had on their defensive line last year. And looking at their defensive line now, it's Myles Garrett. I think it's going to be Perrion Winfrey. Maybe Jordan Elliott stays a starter one more season. And now Dalvin Tomlinson. And then Obo Okwuegbunam, who I have to figure out how to pronounce his name still, coming over from the Houston Texans, which I was a little bit pessimistic about, but I have warmed up to the signing. He's awesome at getting some pressures and getting after the quarterback. Feels like he's an ascending player. And they didn't pay what the Seahawks paid Draymond Jones, which I think was a bit of an overpay. Was it 3 year, $51, $52-ish million? That's just too rich for my liking. I hope that he does well in Seattle, but I do like this Dalvin Tomlinson signing for 4 years and $57 million. So we're saving a good chunk of change, adding an extra year onto that contract, and the average salary per year is just under $15 million. That's going to do it for us on tonight's edition of the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here at home in my kitchen. Make sure to like today's video if you enjoyed the show and whatnot. We're going to have more Browns free agency news and rumors tomorrow. I wonder what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Now that we've got a lot of signings for the Browns done, I don't know if they've got much more in them. There'll be 1 or 2 throughout the next couple of weeks. That minimum-ish, $1, $4, or $5 million a year contracts given out. But I think they've given out the most money they had remaining. So maybe we get a wide receiver signing. We've already had 2 defensive linemen signed. They brought back Takitaki, and they re-signed Pocic to a 3-year, $18 million contract. I'm curious if we've got a trade brewing for wide receiver, or is it just going to be draft? And that's the plan. And it's, hey, we gave Deshaun Watson $230 million. He's got to get the best out of these wide receivers. That's why he's so highly paid. I don't think it'll be that route. I think Andrew Berry will try and get him another speedy receiver or a receiver he's got some familiarity with, but we're going to find out. All right, I'm going to go to bed right now. I'm going to see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning with more Cleveland Browns YouTube content.